Okay, next I want to talk about what a linked list looks like in JavaScript. So the best way about thinking of a linked list is to think of it as an array of objects with null before and after it. So please look, here is our array. Inside of it are objects. We have three here, one, two, three. And each one of these objects is called a node. The first node is always called the head. That's all it means is the first node. And each one of these nodes has a property called .val, and that property holds the value of the node. And it has another property called next or .next. That property holds the location in memory of the next node inside of the linked list. So, for example, with an arrow, this next will point here to this node. And then you can get the value off of that node and the pointer to the next one, and so on. Eventually, you get to the last node in the linked list, and that points to null, and that's how you know it's the end of the linked list. Okay? Now for the fun part, how to use a linked list. So the first thing we have to do is be able to access the values in the linked list. And how do we do that? So we always start from the head, right? That's our first node. So all we do is head dot next. That's going to go right into this property right here, and that points us to an entirely new node. So it's going to be an object with the properties for .val and .next. Okay, so in this case, the value is 2, and it has a pointer. The pointer will either be to another node, which would be an entire object, oops, or it would be to null if it's at the end, right? Because there's nothing to point to. So then let's go to the next example here, head.next.value. So what do you think that's going to give us, right? So we know the value is 2, right? Head.next.val, that is going to give us 2, okay? And let's do the last example, head.next.next.value, okay? So let's start from the head. Head.next points here, .next points here, and then .value, well, we don't have value here, but let's just say it's 3, okay? Now, there's one more important thing, and we talked about a little bit before, null. So what happens if we do head.next, .next, .next, .val? Or we don't even need a value. So we have 3 nexts. Head, next, next, next. Uh-oh, there's nothing there. So that means it's null, and we've reached the end. Okay, the fun part, algorithms. So this is how you iterate through a linked list. Um, this is great for accessing the properties, and we're going to use this, but this is very inefficient. So this is how you'll actually use a linked list when you're trying to do algorithm problems. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to declare a variable called current node, and it's going to be set to head. So when we start accessing the values or the nodes of a linked list, the first one is always the head. So current node equals head. And it's important to remember head is a node object. So it has the properties of .value and .next. Okay? And we're going to use those to loop through it. So what condition are we going to check to loop through it? And by the way, the best loop I think is to use a while loop. So we're going to do while, and we're just going to use current node, right? Because at the end of the linked list, this node is going to return null. There's going to be nothing there, so the last value will be 3. And that's when it will stop looping. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to console log current node dot. And what are we trying to get here? We're trying to get the value. So we just type dot val. And that's going to tell us 1, 2, 3, or whatever the values are. And for this for loop to work, we have to increment the node, the current node. So we just reassign it here. We have to use a let up here. We reassign current node to equal current node dot. So there's two choices. Is it dot value or dot next, right? We want to increment through, right? So go to the next one. So we set equal to next. And there, that is our for loop. It will keep going through until it reaches null, and it will print out the value of each node. Okay, I hope that was helpful for you guys. If you want to learn more, I would recommend going and reading about linked lists more on one of these two sites. I'll leave these links in the description box, as well as I'll leave links to other YouTubers who have made more comprehensive videos about linked lists. But hope that video helped. Good luck, guys.